Hola! Today we will be learning los verbos reflexivos. A reflexive verb, verbo reflexivo, is a verb where the action reflects back to oneself. Hence the name reflexivo. It is almost like a mirror reflecting the action back to the subject. In other words, the subject is who does the action and who receives the action. Reflexive verbs use reflexive pronouns to link the verb to the subject. In English, the words self and selves are used to convey these actions. An example would be, you gave yourself a birthday present. In Spanish, instead of using self and selves, you use the reflexive verbs with their corresponding reflexive pronouns. How do you know if a verb is reflexive? It's very simple. If the infinitive form of the verb ends in se, then the verb is a reflexive verb. For example, the verb lavar means to wash, such as lavar los platos, to wash the dishes. The verb lavarse, on the other hand, means to wash oneself, such as lavarse las manos, to wash one's hands. To conjugate reflexive verbs, you need to know reflexive pronouns. Me means myself, te, yourself, se, himself, herself, yourself formal, and itself, nos, ourselves, os, yourselves only in Spain, and once again, se could also mean themselves or yourselves. Now we will learn how to conjugate reflexive verbs. We will use the reflexive verb lavarse once again as an example. Step 1. Ignore the se and conjugate the verb. For now, we will be conjugating reflexive verbs only in the present tense. Lavarse is now lavar. Yo lavo, tú lavas, él, ella, usted lava, nosotros, nosotras lavamos, vosotros, vosotras laváis, ellos, ellas, ustedes lavan. Step 2. Add the reflexive pronoun that corresponds to the subject and place it before the conjugated verb. Yo me lavo, tú te lavas, él, ella, usted se lava, nosotros, nosotras nos lavamos, vosotros, vosotras os laváis, ellos, ellas, ustedes se lavan. Note: the personal subject pronouns are optional. However, they are often used in the third person singular and plural for clarification. Instead of just saying se lava las manos, you would often hear something along the lines of Marcos se lava las manos, since just saying se lava can be a bit vague. Attention! The reflexive pronoun nos and the subject pronoun nosotros are two different words that have different functions. Nos is not the abbreviation of nosotros. No te confundas. Many verbs that we use to describe our daily routine will be reflexive, since we will be doing things to ourselves to get ready for the day, such as taking a shower and brushing our teeth. Let's learn some of these daily routine reflexive verbs. Since the conjugation of the verbs are in the present tense, make sure you remember the stem-changing verbs and irregular conjugations that you learn in Spanish 1. Bañarse means to bathe oneself. Yo me baño, tú te bañas, él, ella, usted se baña, nosotros, nosotras nos bañamos, vosotros, vosotras os bañáis, ellos, ellas, ustedes se bañan. Vestirse means to dress oneself or to get dressed. Yo me visto, tú te vistes, él, ella, usted se viste, nosotros, nosotras nos vestimos, vosotros, vosotras os vestís, ellos, ellas, ustedes se visten. Cepillarse means to brush oneself. Yo me cepillo, tú te cepillas, él, ella, usted se cepilla, nosotros, nosotras nos cepillamos, vosotros, vosotras os cepilláis, ellos, ellas, ustedes se cepillan. And dormirse means to fall asleep. Yo me duermo, tú te duermes, él, ella, usted se duerme, nosotros, nosotras nos dormimos, vosotros, vosotras os dormís, ellos, ellas, ustedes se duermen. There is a full list of reflexive verbs in your textbook. Let's talk about where to place the reflexive pronoun. I know we said that it goes before the verb. Well, that is generally true, but let's learn the actual placement rule. When there is only one verb, the reflexive pronoun must agree with the subject and it must be placed before the conjugated verb. Ella se levanta temprano. She gets up early. As pointed out before, the reflexive pronoun must precede a conjugated verb. However, if there are two consecutive verbs, you can place the reflexive pronoun before the first conjugated verb or attach it to the second verb. The second verb will always be a gerund, ando, yendo endings, or an infinitive, AR, ER, IR endings. Examples. Ella se tiene que levantar temprano. Ella tiene que levantarse temprano. She has to get up early. Both options are acceptable, and Spanish speakers will use them both. Ella se está levantando temprano. Ella está levantándose temprano. She is getting up early. Note, when attaching the pronoun to the end of the gerund, ando, yendo ending, a written accent is required and is usually placed on the third to the last syllable, levantándose. Be careful. As an English speaker, you would want to say, yo lavo mis manos, and think he means I wash my hands. The correct way of saying I wash my hands is me lavo las manos. Notice that I said las manos instead of mis manos. This is because the reflexive verb already implies that the hands I am washing are my own. This is all for today's lesson. Hasta luego!